I held the keys to a kingdom worth $50 million. Not physical keys, but digital ones. Encryption keys. And the man sitting across from me, a man who had barely graduated high school, but happened to be the CEO's nephew, was demanding I hand them over so he could fire me. He thought he was cutting costs. He thought he was being efficient. But he didn't realize that by firing me, he was triggering a dead man's switch that would turn his entire logistics empire into a paperweight in less than 24 hours. I didn't hack him. I didn't steal from him. I just did exactly what he told me to do. And that's why he's currently facing a federal indictment. And I'm recording this from my new boat. We're going to get into exactly how I dismantled his arrogance piece by piece. But first, if you believe that competence should matter more than connections, do me a favor. Hit that like button. It helps the channel find more guys like us. And if you want a front row seat to more stories of justice served cold, smash that subscribe button. Let's get into it. To understand the revenge, you have to understand the system. I'm a database architect. I build the digital spines that hold companies together. 4 or 5 years, I worked for a mid-sized logistics firm in the Midwest. Again, no names, but if you bought furniture online in 2023, my code probably helped get it to your door. I was the fixer. When the servers crashed at 3 a.m., I was the guy they called. When the routing software sent a truck to the middle of a lake, I fixed the GPS API. I worked 60-hour weeks, missed birthdays, missed holidays, all because I took pride in keeping the green lights on. The owner, Old Man Miller, respected that. He paid me well, and he let me work in peace. But then Miller retired to Florida, and he handed the reins to his nephew, Brad. Brad was something else. He was 30 years old, drove a leased Porsche he couldn't afford, and spoke exclusively in corporate buzzwords he didn't understand. Words like synergy, lean dynamics, and disruptive paradigm. On his first day, Brad walked into the IT department, my department, and looked around like he smelled something bad. He muttered to his assistant that there was too much overhead. He looked at my team of 3 senior devs and asked why we needed 4 people to watch computers, claiming that computers run themselves. That was the moment I knew war was coming. I started documenting everything. Every email, every request, every time Brad denied my budget for server backups because he wanted to renovate his office instead. Remember this, guys. If you're dealing with a Brad, your logbook is your shield. 3 months in, Brad called me into his office. He didn't offer me a seat. He checked his reflection in the window and told me they were making changes. He said he found a vendor overseas who could manage our database for 20% of my salary. So they were letting the team go, including me. I stared at him. I told him that the database was custom-built legacy code. I explained that an external vendor wouldn't know how to handle the encryption handshake, and if that handshake failed, the trucks would stop moving. Brad laughed. He actually laughed. He told me that us tech guys always try to make it sound so complicated just to save our jobs. He said it was just data, zeros and ones. He ordered me to hand over my credentials and said security would walk me out. I felt that heat rise in my chest. You know the feeling, the urge to yell, to flip the desk, to explain exactly how stupid he was being. But I pushed it down. I remember the dead man switch. I kept my voice dangerously calm and said, "Okay, Brad, but just so we're clear, per the company handbook you signed last week, once I'm terminated, I am no longer authorized to touch company systems. Right?" He sneered and said, "Obviously, that's what fired means." I asked him if he was sure he had the admin passwords for the root server. He claimed they had everything they needed and told me to get out. But he didn't have everything. He had the user passwords. He didn't have the root password, the one that refreshed the security certificates every 30 days. And guess what? The certificates were expiring in 48 hours. I went home. I turned off my phone. I cracked open a cold beer and grilled a steak. For the first time in 5 years, I didn't check my email. It was blissful. 24 hours later, My wife asked me why my phone was vibrating off the table. I looked. 14 missed calls, all from the office. 30 minutes later, 27 missed calls. An hour later, a voicemail from Brad. He was panicking. He said there was a glitch and the system was locking out the drivers. It said certificate expired. He said the vendor couldn't get in without the root key and begged me to pick up and tell him the password. I took a sip of beer. I didn't pick up. I wasn't an employee. Sharing passwords would be a violation of the cybersecurity policy Brad himself had implemented to stop leaks. I was just maliciously complying with his rules. By day 2, the company was in meltdown. We're talking full stoppage. Trucks loaded with perishable goods, seafood, produce, flowers were sitting in parking lots because the routing software couldn't verify their manifests. The drivers couldn't leave. The clients were screaming. The estimated loss was roughly $200,000 per hour. Finally, a courier arrived at my front door. It was a letter from legal. They were threatening to sue me for sabotage. I wrote back a simple email. Dear Brad, I did not sabotage anything. The system is working exactly as designed. The security certificates expired, as they do every month. As a terminated employee, I am legally forbidden from accessing your systems to renew them. However, I am available for independent consulting. My rate is $500 per hour, minimum 40 hours, paid up front, plus a $20,000 emergency call-out fee. They held out for another 6 hours. Then, Old Man Miller called me. He had come out of retirement in Florida because his phone wouldn't stop ringing. He sounded tired. He told me he was looking at the wire transfer now and that it was sent. He begged me to fix it. I asked him about Brad. He told me Brad was clearing out his desk and that he was done. I logged in from my living room. It took me 5 minutes. Click, clack, enter. Certificate renewed. The system lights turned green. The trucks started moving. I made $40,000 for 5 minutes of work. I used that money to start my own consulting firm. We specialize in disaster recovery, mostly fixing messes made by people like Brad. As for Brad, the board of directors didn't just fire him. Because the downtime caused a breach of contract with a major government client, the company was investigated. They found out Brad had been funneling that vendor budget into a shell company he owned. He's currently awaiting trial for embezzlement. He wanted to cut the fat. He just didn't realize he was the fat. So that was it for today. If that put a smile on your face, hit that like button. It costs you nothing, and it helps us take down more Brads. And if you've got a story about a boss who got what was coming to him, drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story. Stay safe, stay smart, and remember, the best revenge is a life well lived.